Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Unthank, and I'm the director of the studio program here at EFA. Thank you all for joining us for this info session. Um, yeah, so, all right. We have changed a couple of things about our application this year, so I think it's a great time to kind of do another Q&A. But before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to present kind of overview the membership program, facilities, everything you see on the agenda, and then we're going to open it up for everyone to ask questions. If you have anything that comes up throughout, if you can use the chat function, you can just park it there. Just please use the chat for everyone so that we can easily track all of the questions in one place. If you don't, it's fine. But if you can, when you go to the chat, just select the everyone button. It will simplify things. Also, we are recording this call and it will eventually go on our website. So I really appreciate that you all, some of you have chosen to keep your cameras on. It makes it feel less like talking into a void. So I really appreciate it. But if you're sensitive about having your face, you're also welcome to not share your screen. That's up to you. And I'm hoping to keep the presentation portion to about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll do approximately 20 minutes for questions. If you already submitted questions, then we have answered it in the presentation. But if for some reason I missed your question, of course, feel free to put it in the chat as well. I think that is all for housekeeping. So again, welcome everyone that's just joined us. My name is Alex Unthank, and I'm the director of the studios program at EFA. So I'm just gonna start out and briefly give a little bit of context to EFA. Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts is a program. We have our main program is the studios program, where we have about 90 artist studios. A large portion of those are reserved for our juried selected members. But EFA was started in 1998 and has grown to also incorporate the project space gallery, which is a curatorial platform that exhibits mainly emerging curators and independent curators, but not limited to, and the Robert Blackburn printmaking workshop, which is a community print shop. And I'll talk a little bit more about the print shop community and the member benefits pertaining to that in a little bit. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. EFA Studios offers affordable private studio space. We do also have career development opportunities and plenty of exposure opportunities for our members. We are really set up to be a sustainable studio space for artists. We're located in Midtown Manhattan in the Garment District. And I would say the number one membership benefit is, of course, the subsidized studios. So we do, as I mentioned, have sorry, I'm hanging up on them. I think that it's definitely at this point a rarity to have access to affordable studio space in the middle of Manhattan. But we're also very easy to access from basically all of the trains that come right into Midtown. So we're not limited to artists that are in New York, but we also have a lot of artists that are in the tri-state area. Can everyone see the slides? You can give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Their hours. Um, all right. So, okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So, okay, so for through this jury membership process, you do get selected to have a studio, and are the studios pre-selected? Can you choose? Studios are first come, first served. You do get the opportunity to view all the available studios once we begin the interview process. Can we go to the next slide? And so in terms of promotion and visibility that we offer for our studio members, I think the most popular program that we run is our Visiting Professionals program. We do invite curators, art critics, mainly among many other like professionals, but it's typically curators and critics to do studio visits about twice a month. So all the members do have the opportunity to RSVP to see the professionals for studio visits. Typically, we get we our members kind of get to inform us in who we approach, who we ask to come and do studio visits. So a lot of that comes from member feedback. But typically, it's independent curators, curators from institutions, and writers and critics. So we definitely focus mainly on more local institutions and also gallerists as well. And that typically is we'll have artists that are like, I'm really interested in curators that are doing this type of work, and then we really try to match everyone's expectations and goals with that. So it is based on demand, and the availability of the uh, individual. So if there is more demand than the person has time for, there is a lottery system. So we try to make it as fair as possible. And each studio visit is $30. We also host an annual open studios that is open to the public every October. This is really like our main like capstone event per year. We get about 1,400 visitors over the 2 days. And this year we did some tweaks, again, based on member feedback, to try and really engage more of the arts professionals. So we piloted doing a professional preview where we had, I think, over 170 artists, professionals that RSVP'd for that, and I think about 280 that actually attended. So again, we really work together with members to see how they want to be spotlighted, but that's a way that we really promote everyone's work. We typically spotlight artists who are participating in open studios, show some of their work, like on our Instagram, for example, in the promotional materials, etc. But everyone's studio is listed on that brochure for that event, and everyone has the opportunity to kind of really participate and get a lot of exposure through that public event. We go to the next slide, please. But we also have exhibition opportunities throughout the year. Every new member cohort gets a new member exhibition in our office gallery. And then we have about 2 to 3 additional exhibitions throughout the year in the office gallery. And that can be a combination of members and artists from outside of the building, kind of in dialogue. It's also an opportunity for members to curate a show if they wish. And then we do try to do at least one offsite exhibition or partnership show that will help to broaden our audience. So that could be with another institution or another exhibition space. One year we did a virtual exhibition for NADA, for example. So that can kind of come from, any kind of inspiration from people that we're meeting or people that a member might put us into contact with. But it's definitely a way that we really like to show um, or give exposure to our members. If we can go back to that slide again. And then we also promote artists' work through our social media, our newsletter, and our website. We're very active on social media. We share posts. So if you have an exhibition or an event, we'll usually repost, for example, or designate an individual post for an artist to share news. That's kind of the constant way that we're promoting people and sharing what we do at EFA. But then we do have our newsletter where we'll share like kind of bigger or more significant milestones, like if someone has a review or publishes a book or something like that would go in the newsletter. And then our website hosts a profile for every member artists, and curators definitely do look at that website for inspiration. And I've met lots of people who have pulled directly from our site for exhibitions. And then we have private tours and workshops. Typically, our private tours are school groups, usually MFA, NBA, curatorial, or fine art majors. And then we have talks and workshops as well. That can be panels or screenings. Sometimes they're in conjunction with exhibitions, but not always. And that's another opportunity where members can really dictate what they want to see. It's always an option for a member to come and use the conference room to host their own event if it's a screening or a book signing, or to propose an idea for a panel discussion. And then we do lots of outings and field trips, which are really just mainly for fun and for bonding, which I really enjoy. And then we can have specialty groups as well that might be collector groups, or like the Christie's groups come. And so if there's particular interested party, will also make ourselves available in that way too. Next slide. And then membership for studios also gains you membership for the print shop. The Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop is a community print shop. I think it's also the only community print shop in Manhattan, at least, that does offer stone lithography, which makes it really special if anyone is a printmaker. But they do offer classes, and they have a publishing program as well. And they collaboratively print with artists. So it's a really dynamic community as well, and one that I think is well worth investigating if you haven't had any experience with printmaking yet. But if you do have experience, then all you have to do is take a safety workshop, and then you can just utilize the print shop. And if you take classes, you receive the member discount for their classes. All classes include materials and extra hours. So you're really set up if you take a class to kind of make whatever you want to make and then have time to work on that project. We have a retreat style residency on the North Fork of Long Island that we also run, that we partner with a patron couple who has like a guest house there. So you get access to like a small living space and a studio. That is not year round. I don't remember the exact program dates for the Norfolk residency, but if you have questions about that later on, Derek can give you more information on it. But they're typically, it's year round now. It's exciting. But it's typically about a month, but it all is about scheduling. But it's a closed application, so as long as it fits in your schedule, you're really likely to be able to get out there if you're interested. And then what I think is the main membership is really the community of artists here. I think that artists really are the best resource that we have at EFA. Everyone is very generous. I think people share their time really well with each other. They support each other. Even if you have your own exhibition, like to just get there and see a bunch of familiar faces, sometimes like, on time is really nice. But I mean, I think that people here really push each other, and people can take time and do exchange studio visits, etc. But the whole thing that makes this program special is to be among other artists that are working, so that everyone can be in community. So facilities, studio sizes vary roughly between 200 and 440 square feet. The ceilings are about 11 inches high, or sorry, 11 feet high. And then internet, heat, AC, and electric are included in the studio fees. And then our building is very well maintained. We do have a super and a porter that are on site on weekdays, and we do have 2 passenger elevators and a freight elevator. Typically, the passenger elevators are relatively large, so people are typically able to like move things in and out without needing the freight, but the freight is available during weekdays via reservation. And then each floor has shared bathrooms, wash sinks, and common areas with a kitchenette and fridge, microwave, and some have coffee makers, depending on people kind of add to it as they see fit. And then I did get a question about accommodations for health disabilities earlier on, and that is something to really discuss with us during a semifinalist interview without really knowing the specifics. Obviously we always do our best to accommodate, but we do have elevators. The building is wheelchair accessible. We have ventilation fans, so there is airflow. And in terms of like masking and things like that, we really take the lead of the artist. So if an artist prefers a mask environment, then staff does adhere to that. And if we have guests, we ensure that the guests also adhere to that. But of course, I would need to know specifics of what type of accommodations one would want, but that's definitely something to discuss in an interview. So if you're accepted to our program, you are assigned a subsidy. I will say that all of the studios are subsidized. So every studio is below market, but it is based on income, the level of support you receive. So once you're accepted as a semifinalist, you have to submit 2 letters of reference, one personal and one from a landlord, condo board, or something similar to that. And you will submit a 2024 personal financial statement form and your tax filings for 2023 and 2024. Within your 2023 and 2022, so the previous 2 years. In your 2024 personal financial statement, that you do have space to fill in to add any context. So of course, if you have any particular financial situation that affects your income, you should put it there. And that's something that can also be discussed during the interview. So you're not prioritized based on your need. So if you were to express need in your form, we're not assessing that as grounds for membership. But it is to assign your subsidy. If you don't, you do not have to share your financial information in order to have a studio. You'll just get the least amount of subsidy. Also, if for some reason you can't provide financial information at that time, you will be assigned the least amount of subsidy, and then you can, at a later date, once you have the information, present it for an adjustment. Can we go to the next slide? So this is kind of the fee breakdown. So the subsidy levels, A is most subsidized, your income is up to 55K. And that is, we're usually a little bit, we have a little bit of flexibility on all of these brackets, depending on the information you present in your financial form. But then, of course, it just goes less and less subsidized as you go up. So an A is paying $3.36 per square foot. A D is paying $5.16 per square foot and is making over 100K, for example. And then in a monthly, on the monthly fees, you're paying your subsidized studio fee, which there's a range there. And then everyone pays a monthly due of $80, regardless of what subsidy is. And so, for example, if you were to have a 200 square foot studio, you'll see the range of fees below, but it's between 672 to a little bit over 1,000. So, and when we assess subsidy, is this on the second slide? No, we go to the next slide. No, actually, just go back. Sorry. When we assess subsidy, we are taking an overall financial picture. If you submit your taxes, if you file jointly with a spouse, we are looking at your combined income. And if you don't file jointly with your spouse, for example, but you want to include their income, or you might need to say, I do also have a spouse, etc. You can put that in the financial form, for example. And, if you have, I don't know, student loans or outstanding medical consideration, or your primary caregiver, etc., things like that, you explain in the form, and we take that into account when we do our formula. Okay, we're going to go to the next. So when you do your first payment, you'll have a one-time maintenance fee in addition to your monthly studio fees. And if you opt in for the key fob, which enables you the 24/7 access, then there's a $75 key deposit, both of which you get back when the key is returned and or when you move out. And then there are 6% fee increases every other year on the even year, which just keeps up with inflation. And then whenever there's a change in your fee, there's an additional charge for the difference in your deposit, which is a one-time charge. So in the case of a fee increase, there is a charge, but if your subsidy changes ever, there's always a deposit change. So sometimes that could appear as credit, for example. Next slide, please. So you do have, okay, well, one question is, what if I don't qualify for subsidized studio pricing? If you don't qualify for the most subsidy, you still receive the subsidy of a D level, which is $5.16 a square foot. And will the subsidy be reassessed during renewal process? Every 2 years, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier when I overviewed the program, but every 2 years, we do have a renewal process. And at that point, your subsidy, you resubmit your financials, and then uh, we reassign your subsidy if need be. So if your income has increased a lot, your rate might go up. And if your income has decreased, your rate would go down. However, if you have significant loss of income at any point in between renewal, you should tell us and we can adjust your subsidy accordingly. People can also notify us if they've come into a windfall of cash and we could up your subsidy, but I don't think anyone ever does that. But typically your financials are being reviewed every 2 years. And then, whoops, sorry. Oh, and yes, you also do have, oh, will the fees be reviewed aside from the renewal application? Oh, yeah, so your fees are not reviewed unless you bring it to our attention between renewals. So a lot of times when people come into the program, they may, for example, if a larger studio is harder for you to maintain, you can opt to change your studio at any point, or if you're working bigger or smaller or whatever. Members certainly can always change studios, but it does pend availability. So depending on what you're looking for, uh, if it's a rarer configuration, it might take a few years for that studio to vacate and for me to move you into it. But typically, depending on what you're looking for, I try to get people moved as soon as I can for whatever their needs are. Um, that's something you can communicate as your needs change. And if you do move studios, your subsidy level stays the same, but the fee reflects the square footage of the studio that you move into. And then, of course, if your fee changes, then there is you have to account for the difference of deposit. And another thing that does make this potentially more accessible from a price point is that members can share their studios. You have the option to, what we call when you have a studio mate, someone who's sharing your studio and you're also using it, is a studio share. But if you're out of town, say for residency or something, and someone is taking over your studio and you are not using it, we call that an absence share. So either one you're able to you get to choose who it is. But you must fill out a share form online, and then admin does have final approval. We're just double checking that this is a person that's a professional artist and that they're, a good fit for the program, but there's not a jury assessing their work. So if you're vouching for them, typically that's totally fine. Okay, and on to eligibility. So any visual artist working in any media with an established studio practice is eligible to apply. We don't have a need to have it be only emerging or only established artists. We're a really diverse group and we're an intergenerational group, which I think is a point of pride. However, we are a program that is for professional artists. You must be 25 years of age in order to be eligible, and you have to be 25 by May 1st of 2025. If you're 24 now and you're going to turn 25 by May 1st, you can still apply. You cannot be in a college or a degree granting program while you are a member of this program. So if you're currently enrolled in a degree program, if you're graduating in May, you would still be eligible to apply this cycle. And we So yes, you can apply if you graduate in May. That's correct. And then you must be a US citizen or a legal resident during your tenure at EFA. And the applications are solely judged on the quality of the work you presented. So that said, our jury is a blind jury. Um, okay, and then there are, just for practical reasons, some types of work that we can't really accommodate because of space. So very large or heavy sculptures, some types of metal work, and of course, work involving high noise levels or risk of fire are not permitted in the building. We do have lots of artists that work in larger scale sculptures, but typically they manufacture their work off-site. So if that is your medium, you can still potentially have a studio here. It just is a matter of like what you can physically do in the studio and if that works for you or not. Um, and just keeping in mind, obviously, the size of the studios, they're not huge. So we don't allow like for large power tools to be used and things like that. You can work with paper mache or clay, but you wouldn't be able to have like a kiln in your studio. And then some important application dates and notifications. So um, the application is due December 1st by 11:59. So just before midnight is the application deadline. The week of February 10th is when we notify semifinalists. And then when semifinalists are notified, we do prompt you to fill out that financial application and also submit your letters of recommendation. And then February 21st is the deadline to submit that application. I will note that we need you to submit that application in order to schedule your first round interviews. So as soon as you can get that application sent, we can start scheduling the interview. So if you can do it before the deadline, that is appreciated. And then the first round interviews are between February 24th and March 7th. Those are on Zoom. And it's mainly a good time to like ask specific questions related to your practice, get a sense of if we can meet your expectations and that you understand the full program offerings. So that's kind of what we talk about during that first interview. You don't have to present your work, although it's nice if you have the ability to show us something in your Zoom. I mean, we like to see it, but it's not necessary. You don't have to prepare anything ahead for that meeting, apart from the application part. And then we do the second round interviews between March 31st and April 11th. Those are in person. So you have to be able to get to the office for the second round interviews. That's also the point in which you get to see the studios in person and you select the studio that you want during that interview. In the first round interview, it's also helpful if you have any specific studio needs to let us know at that point. Like I will try to make it that people get the studio that works best for them, but it really is first come, first serve. But if I know, for example, that you for some reason really require, four walls and no windows, I can try and work that out for you. And then after that second round interview is when we give our final membership offers. And then between May 1st and August 31st is when you can move in. It's the move-in period. We will, if you know when your desired move-in date is during during any of the interview period, it's really great if you let us know so that we can match you also within the timing. We typically studios are available between May 1st and August 31st, but it is kind of pending availability. So it's possible that something might not be available for move-in until, June, for example. So depending on your flexibility, it's good to know that ahead of time. And then the application itself. So again, I will say that we do have a blind jury. Our jury, we try to keep our jury very diverse. So typically there's somebody representing more of an institutional curatorial background. There's someone kind of representing the gallery perspective, or somebody representing kind of more of a nonprofit artist services perspective, and then there's usually someone independent and someone who's a critic or a writer on the jury, and the jury changes every year. So if you have submitted before, it's not going to be the same jury. So we do ask for your contact information, your current resume and CV, an explanation of work, which is a max of 250 words. For your explanation of work, please don't include your name or any links because the jury does see that. So that needs to remain blind. Jury doesn't see your resume at all. So by the way. And then in your image and video list, again, that's going to be just a list of what you've presented. So don't include your name on that or any links. That's going to be the title, the date, the dimensions, and that the jury will also see. Will also prompt you on the application. And then if you're submitting still images, you have 8 images to submit. The maximum size is 3 megabytes, and we request you not to submit any composite images or captions or descriptive text within your image submission. So we ask that you reserve any descriptive text for your explanation of work. And you can show installation shots that show several pieces. I will say that it's harder to see the actual work when you submit installation shots. So if installation is integral to your practice, you should use it because it does support your portfolio. But if you have small paintings and you're showing, 5 small paintings in a line, it's not going to be seen. No one's going to be able to see the detail as much. So when you're selecting your images, just think about that. Maybe just including one installation shot if it's not integral to your practice to show installations. And if you want to submit video work, you can submit a 5-minute video, a maximum length of 5 minutes, and 4 images. So this is new if you've applied before. Now you can submit both video and images. Your 4 images can be stills from your video, or they can be unrelated to your video. But you should only submit film or video if it's intended to be viewed on a screen. So we also accept reels of short works or excerpts. And if you do submit a reel with multiple videos, please include a cover sheet in between each excerpt. But don't submit a walkthrough of an exhibition or performance documentation in video. You should submit those as an image submission instead. It's really intended just for the moving image, like work that is meant to be viewed as on a screen as a video. And don't include your name. So sometimes people have a watermark or something. Just try to remove that from your video submission. We'll go to the next. So just some quick examples. This is a composite image. and it's got a description of the image and the name and the title and the medium within the image, that's a no. It will be disqualified. This is a installation shot. It's clear. It's great. But again, I would just point out that that the paintings are pretty small in the back. Like I would want to see a detail or one of those being represented as the image if I was watching this, because I wouldn't, it's hard, it loses the detail, but it is acceptable. You can submit. And so we'll go back for video. This is a video of an installation of a video. We want to see what the audience is seeing. So we want it to be the video, not an installation video. Okay, some questions about application and notification. So in terms of for the explanation of work, should each image be referenced individually, or should it provide an overview of your general context? So in your explanation of work, it's a great opportunity to provide overall context, and you can use it to highlight a specific work. I would also suggest if you're presenting two bodies of work or distinct aspects of your practice, that you should use it to guide the jury on what to focus on and why. So if you're showing like works that are very different, explain like why you're showing two separate bodies of work. How do they support each other, and how does it reflect what you're like focusing on, or like what your intentions are? And then what should be included in the image and video list? So your checklist should just be your title, your date, your materials, and dimensions. Any descriptive text for context or any explanation of process, other than if it's in the materials, should be in the explanation of your work. Oh yeah, you can have your name included on the resume. And also, even though we're saying that it's blind and we're saying don't put your name on your work, you will need to put your name, you will need to name the file with your name. The jury won't see it. So it might seem like we're asking for you for two different things at once, but just try to follow the instructions as well as you can. And if you have questions, then just email studios. But yes, you can include your name on your resume. And then advice for submitting images or videos, how many artworks to pick. I would say really try to think of it more of telling a full story with your submission. So everything should support what you're doing now. Like try to represent where you are in your practice currently and what you're working towards. So even if you're showing previous work, it should try to make it apparent how it's bringing you to your current place. But you can show work that are older, but it's good to show current work. The jury wants to know what you're working on now. Okay, and recommended time range of the work. Oh yeah, so I would say to keep it within the past 3 years and only include previous works that provide context to your current pieces. So yeah, try to be cohesive with the story you're telling, even if the work is quite different. And yeah, if you've applied before, it's going to be a different jury, so you don't have to worry about resubmitting past work that you've submitted before in your application, I mean. All right, that was a lot of me talking. So yeah, you can contact studios at efanyc.org if you have any questions. And remember, the application deadline is December 1st, just before midnight. And